Hello guys and welcome back to another video. Today we are setting up for October, aka my favorite month of the year and also my birthday month. And if you've been here for a while now, you know by now that my birthday is on Halloween. And even though here in Portugal we don't celebrate Halloween that much, I really like to make my setups more spooky. And last year, I think, I made a cat and mouse duet inspired theme, which for those who don't know, it's the Hunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton books and my favorites, so I made that. And this year I was inspired by this tape that I got a while ago on a haul, I'll link the video down below, and it's these spooky, I think, Chinese temples, and so in my interpretation, they could become haunted temples. So that's what we're doing. But if you are not in the mood for a spooky Halloween vibe and you are more on a cute and adorable Halloween mood, stick around because I brought you some new ideas. So the idea for the cover page was using one of the designs right in the middle and then use these corner designs, one in the top left corner and the other in the bottom right corner, to kind of frame the temple. And initially I thought of using more corner pieces so that I could create a complete frame around it, but I only had like 5 corners in total in the entire PET tape, so I had to be creative because I wanted to use the other corner pieces for other page. To complete the whole vibe of a frame, I made a dashed line connecting the corners, and then I realized that the temple wasn't really in the center and it was bothering me, so I tried to take it off the page very carefully and stick it down again, but it ripped right in the middle, so I had to use another one. Luckily, the tape had a big quantity of these, so even if I had to rip off some of them, I was fine. But I don't like to waste stationery, so it was a little accident. Then I thought the page was looking a little too white for a spooky theme, so I decided to add my little black paper that is almost only used at this time of the year, and I used some parts to put around the spread. I didn't want to cover an entire page with a black paper because I wanted the designs to shine, and since they are black and red, it wouldn't be that noticeable against the black background, so I tried to balance the white of the paper with the colors on the tape. And I also didn't want to have to use my white gel pen to write on it because I don't really love it and it takes a while to dry, so this was the best solution. On the left page I did the exact same thing, but mirrored and with a different design. In this one I used this little temple on the center and I put the corner pieces on opposite sides just to be visually interesting to look at, and I'm going to write a little quote. But before that, I'm going to put another piece of black paper on the right side of the spread because it was a little unbalanced, and then I'm going to write the title. The font that I used for this entire theme is the Kiara script by Nux Studio from the Font website. Since the whole theme was based around these Chinese temples, at least that's what was written on the product description, so don't come for me if they are not Chinese, I thought of finding a Chinese-inspired font to go with the theme, and I came across this one and I knew right there that this was the one. It fitted the theme, it gave that Chinese vibe, and it wasn't very hard to recreate. Now for the quotes, I didn't find that many Chinese spooky quotes to put in here, so I tried to search for spooky quotes in general, and I found this one that says, "I am my demon." And I think it kinda fits the whole theme, not the temple part, but the spooky feeling. So I wrote this on sticker paper and then I cut around each word and put it down on the page. And with this, the cover spread is done. But before we continue, I want to show you guys my new alcohol markers that Arrtx kindly sent me. And it is with these markers that I'm going to show you some ideas for October themes. These are the Arrtx Oros 66 alcohol markers, and the set that I have is the pastel, but they also have alcohol markers in skin tones and also in the normal colors. The Oros line comes with a brush and a chisel tip, but they also have the Alp series that comes with a fine and a chisel tip. And as you can see, it comes in this cute little box that has a handle that makes this set portable, so you can take it with you wherever you want. And they are also in a plastic grid, so they don't move around on the box, and it makes it easier to pick the markers and put them back in. The marker has a dual tip, as I said before. It is a brush on one side and a chisel tip on the other. The color is written on both sides of the marker, so no matter which side is upright, you can see the color, and it has this scalloped edge that gives the marker a cute design. The barrel of the markers have this triangular cylindrical design that keeps the markers from rolling off your desk or smooth surfaces. I'm going to test both sides on the color sheet just to make sure the ink is running smoothly. And now about the colors. It comes with 64 pastel markers plus a black marker and a colorless blender, which are great additions to the sets. And since the ink is alcohol based, it dries quickly and it doesn't fade that easily. These come with a beautiful set of red, yellow, green and blue tones, and they are quite different from each other. Even the lightest colors have different undertones, so you can use them for whatever artwork you're working on. The ink flows really easily from both tips, and I actually expected to smell more the alcohol, but they didn't smell at all, which is good for people that are more affected by strong smells. Now let's take a look at the full color range, and I have to say that even though I usually use more warm and darker colors, I can still appreciate these pastel colors because they are so beautiful, and you don't have to only use pastels on spring and summertime, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to use them for a Halloween theme. I'm working on my handy dandy sketchbook, and first I'm going to test the blending to see if they blend well with each other so that I can make gradients. First, I'm going to try a gradient between yellow tones, starting with the lightest color towards the darkest, and then the technique is basically just going over it multiple times with the different markers, and then going over everything with the lightest color just to make the transition even more seamless. And that usually works really well for me. Then, just to try some different colors, I tried the same thing but with the green tones, and they blended beautifully. Here are the final results of the blending, and now let's try this, but on an actual drawing. I used a black fine liner just to make a sketch, and it's a very loose sketch, nothing too crazy, just enough to show you the idea. And first I'm drawing a pumpkin, because maybe you don't celebrate Halloween and you prefer something more fall themed instead. I'm going to put the colors of the markers that I'm using on the screen, so if you want to recreate these later, you can. And first I'm going in with the base color of the pumpkin and working my way towards the darker colors, because you can always go darker but you can go lighter. Then it's the same thing for the stem. Here is our cute little pumpkin, it's so adorable. And now let's do something more spooky. Let's try a ghost. Ghosts are so easy to draw and you can make them whatever shape you want. I drew a cute little ghosty with his arms kind of bent. It's pretty much a classical pose for this. And this time I wanted to make a gradient, but instead of going from light to dark, I'm going with dark, light and then dark again. So I'm starting with a beigey color on the center and then I'm coloring the top and bottom of the ghost with blue tones. And to make sure the transition between all these colors is seamless, in the end I'm going over everything with the beige again. To finalize the ghost, I colored his eyes with black, and here it is. And now for the last sketch, I'm doing a moon, because if you don't want anything fall themed and neither spooky, you can go the celestial route. A moon is really easy to make a seamless transition because it's a circle and in reality is round, so there aren't many shadows, but it still has some, so I'm beginning with a very light purple to color everything and then moving towards the darkest shade. And I even tried to use the black as the darkest shadow, but black is a really hard to blend with very light colors, so I tried to use the colorless blender, but I don't really know how to work with that, so the transition on this with the black wasn't very good, but with the other purples is completely fine and seamless. I drew some little craters on the moon to make it a little bit more realistic, and here is the final drawings. Honestly, I'm quite pleased with them, since they were pretty much simple doodles, but I think the markers brought life to them, and I hope I gave you some fun ideas if you don't really vibe with the theme that I'm doing. Thank you again, Arrtx, for giving me the chance to try out these alcohol markers, because they were honestly amazing. And if you are interested in getting a set for yourself, I'll leave all the links down below so you can check out everything that Arrtx has to offer. And now let's close the box and continue my setup. With the cover spread done, let's move on to the calendar spread. I made the basic calendar box, but slightly taller than I usually make it. Since the temples were quite tall, I wanted to give that impression on the calendar as well, so adding 2 dot spaces to the length of each row gave me the effect that I wanted. I also did the inside of the calendar with the dashed lines and a thicker outline to differentiate between them. Then I wrote the numbers in the same font and I decorated the sides with a black paper covering the full length of the page, and I put 2 designs on the left side in a way to make them seem connected. I was torn between leaving the edges of the black paper completely straight or leaving them ripped like this, but I wanted it to look uneven, since sometimes I could use more paper on one side than the other, and ripped edges were perfect to disguise that if I would eventually do that in some spread. I don't think I ended up doing that, but the ripped edges look good either way. Also, to make sure the designs were straight and to look connected, at least in this spread, I cut a little bit of the backing, just enough to stick to the page, but I could still remove it if I wanted. And then after I made sure they were exactly where I wanted, I removed the rest of the backing and it's done. Then I wrote the initials for the days of the week on top of the calendar, and before moving on, I had these little designs from the tape because to cut the temples I had to also cut them since they were around them. So instead of throw them away or keeping them, I tried to use some of them throughout the setup. Next, we're doing my task spread, and this one is pretty much empty since I used only the right side for the decoration, and the actual spread is usually empty until I use it for the month. This time I tried to give the illusion that the black paper was behind the temple, but I only put a small part of the paper on the top and bottom because if I was actually going to put them behind the temple, you could see it, so to avoid that I just made the illusion. And to make the spread a little bit more balanced, I used another piece of black paper on the left side, but that's it for the decoration. Then to finalize the spread, I wrote the title and put it on the left side as well. Moving on, we are going to do the weeklies. And of course, for my favorite month, I had to do my favorite weekly layout, that is Dutch doors. I use them all the time because of how easy they are to set up, to use and to decorate. And to start, we have to cut the pages that are going to be part of the Dutch doors. Usually I count a page for each week, and if I have some loose days on the beginning or ending of the month, like for example just a Monday and Tuesday, I just put them together with another week. I don't move them to other months because I like to keep all the days of the month together. It's just the way my brain functions. I kept the functional part easy, just dividing the days with a black line, and I'm using some number stickers in black just so I don't have to write each one. But I had to make some mistake, of course, because I wrote Monday on the first day and the 1st of October falls on a Wednesday, so I had to put some correction tape on top of every word and write again the right day. Because of the decoration that I'm going to put on this spread, it left me some empty spaces on the top left corner and the bottom right corner. So on the left, I used this space to put a mini calendar. This is also something that I like to make when I do Dutch doors. It makes my life easier to know where we are in the month, and it's a fun way to use an empty section. And I'm leaving the right space for a next month section. Instead of putting the black paper on the outer edges of the spread, I put them on the edges of the Dutch door. This way it looks like the black is coming from behind the Dutch door. And now for the temples, I used the same design, but one of them is going to be upside down. I didn't have a temple that had the edge on the right side to match the other one, so I thought, since I'm doing a haunted temples theme, why not putting one of them upside down? And honestly, it looks so cool to me. Let's continue on to the last spread of this setup, and usually it is a brain dump, but this time I'm adding a birthday wishes page on the spread. Since my birthday is coming, my family and friends usually ask me if I want anything specific for my birthday, and to make my life easier, I can check this list and tell them. Of course, I don't usually ask for anything too fancy. If I want anything more pricey, I save money for it and then buy it myself. But I can put something like a book or a piece of clothing or something like that. And then I can also use this list for Christmas. On the right page, I'm doing a brain dump as usual, but I changed the name for Mind Unwind, and it's something that I saw Jashii doing on her own journal, so I'll leave her channel down below. For this spread, I kept the decoration on the middle as a way to connect the pages, but still keep them divided. I always pass my X-Acto knife through the binding if I have some decoration there, to make sure it doesn't affect the notebook when it's closed, and to finish the decorations I used the small designs sprinkled in between the temples, and then I just wrote the titles on each of the sides. Before I did my final flip through, I went back to almost all the pages and just put the small designs that were left, just so I didn't have to keep them loose somewhere. Okay, and now it's time for the final flip through. I hope you guys liked this setup. If you did, give a like, subscribe and leave a black heart emoji in the comments to let me know you watched it till the end. This is one of my easiest setups because it's quite simple in decoration and in functionality, but I think it looks very good, and I honestly love spooky and haunted things, so doing a haunted temple theme was amazing for me. Don't forget to check out Arrtx. Again, all the links are in the description box below, and I hope my little sketches gave you some ideas for other themes. I hope you have a lovely day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!